So by way of introduction, just a tiny bit about me. I moved to Ithaca in 2004, as Mary said. It was around the time, several changes in my life around that time. One, Jasper, our first child, our son, was born in the same year. You can see what he spent some of the first year of his life doing, rearing butterflies for Dad. It's around the time when I really, I'd say, focused in on or became obsessed even more with monarchs and milkweeds. And although the people and the students and postdocs and staff in my lab will do many other things and work on other organisms, it's really, it's around that time became the focus of my own obsession.
Like, it just felt like I was a mom of 5, and it just gave me experience to have little, like, it was like a very good experience to see them transform from baby caterpillars to a whole, like, new creature. Like, it was so, they were beautiful.
And to introduce you to the organisms, this is a monarch butterfly that is just emerging from its chrysalis. You can see here is what you'll see in a minute, looks often like a kind of jade green dumpling, but when it pops out, it's no longer that way. There are some of the gold dots that are maybe familiar to you on the chrysalis. The monarch pops out and in about 10 minutes has to inflate its wings and begin to harden them up. On the plant side of things, the common milkweed is the star of this story. It's Asclepias syriaca, but it's native to eastern North America. It ranges from New Brunswick to the Carolinas, and it shares really an intimate association with this butterfly, the monarch. In any case, the seed might look something like this, a relatively young milkweed plant coming out from its dormant rootstocks in the winter, and on the underside of a leaf, we might find a monarch butterfly's egg. Some 4 to 6 days later, depending on temperature, that egg hatches, and hence commences the natural history of coevolution.
They were eating and getting fat, like 2 times the size they were at the beginning, and they were like very tiny, and then the next day they were like so fat because they ate a lot of the food on the bottom.
And the picture starts very innocently, sometime in June, typically in central New York. Adult monarch butterfly that migrates up from Mexico will lay an egg on a plant like this. And from that innocent beginning, the egg hatches, and the first barrier to feeding that caterpillar faces are what we call trichomes. They're leaf hairs, and often, especially on the common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca, the monarch will shave a bed, removing all the trichomes on the leaf. It has not fed at all yet. It's just hatched from its egg. And before it can get any nutrients out of the leaf, it must kind of clear that slate. Once the caterpillar shaves the lawn, it sinks its mandibles into the leaf, and it's faced with a very toxic, gluey, gummy substance we call latex. If the caterpillar survives shaving those trichomes, the next barrier to feeding that it faces is really a spectacular and violent defense. It's the latex, that white sticky emission that you may have seen breaking a milkweed leaf. This monarch butterfly caterpillar, it shaved its hairs, it took its first few bites, and at the site of damage, a large droplet of latex welled up. It carried the animal down and it glued it dead to the leaf here. To me, what makes that just so remarkable is this is essentially the only plant that caterpillar eats. It's not that it happened to lay an egg on a suboptimal thing and therefore 30 to 60% of them died. This is its only food source. And the plant's doing pretty darn well if it's killing off some large fraction of them at this very early stage, in that first day of life after they hatch. One of the most remarkable things they do is they disarm the latex system of the plants. So the latex system is canals that flow throughout all the leaves, and they're under pressure so that when you break a leaf, it oozes latex. And of course, all children that live in an area where there are milkweeds have experienced the white gummy stuff that comes out. What the caterpillars do is a behavioral mechanism to disarm that pressurized latex system. They will sometimes spend an hour cutting a notch. Basically, they cut that latex, the latex delivering canal, with taking great pains. the leaf eventually kind of falls over or is bent down, and that indicates to us and to the caterpillar that the latex is no longer flowing because the pressure has been taken away. And then the caterpillar will feed on the other side of that cut. One of the most interesting things is sometimes it'll spend an hour cutting the trench and only 20 minutes very hungrily eating the leaves on the other side of that cut. And then again, there are physiological and molecular adaptations to deal with the poisons. And especially the larger caterpillars will spend upwards of an hour disarming that latex flow from the plant. So that caterpillar, it's getting pretty hungry at this point. It's spent a lot of time cutting a trench or cutting a notch in that leaf. Latex can no longer flow to the distal tissues. Eventually, the leaf is going to hang down. The bubble above its head is, oh, very good. It's no more latex flow. And then, it might only be 10 minutes that it takes to then voraciously feed on that leaf. So in some senses, it's spending more time, or may spend more time, deactivating the defense than actually eating that leaf. Okay, so here's the caterpillar. It's feeding away. Just some quick pictures. What happens after spending 10 days in the caterpillar phase, they enter the J phase. They find a place to hang, often away from the milkweed plant. And I think that's largely to get away from the evidence. And then in about, 30 minutes, the transformation occurs from the J. The skin is shed.
So this is the process when the butterflies are about to go in their chrysalis. They hang upside down and wrap the little webs that are there to protect them around them so they could stick on the top of the cap. The bottom of the cap.
I love this image here because it's just so alien. You can, in that 30 minutes transformation into it's still soft in this case, the pupa or the chrysalis that will eventually harden. The spots are initially yellow and then they harden to be gold.
A chrysalis is a layer of molecules around them, and they form there so they could work their magic to turn into a butterfly. So the chrysalis were a little dim, but then at the middle they were it looked like pigment. It looked like a nice shiny layer, and then they started to turn a little brown until we saw them come out. And first we saw one on the front of the cap, and then we turned it around and we saw two.
You wait about 10 days, and at the end of that 10 days, the chrysalis turns from the green color to seeing the wings, and it's about 10 minutes till they're fully pumped. Again, this is a pretty soft butterfly that can't yet fly, but it is sort of fully formed there.
So when they come out the cocoon, they would poop out red stuff, and sometimes it would smell like the food that they have on the bottom when they were caterpillars, and they would lick the floors where the poop was and stuff. It was just really nasty. We had to we had a net, and we took the cap out, and then there was a little area so we could put the cap on, and we put it in the net, and it was like the butterflies were shaking in it because they were scared, and they were shaking in their cocoon. They're like boom, like that, and kept going back and forth and just kept shaking all over the place. So they ate oranges, apples, and stuff, and they ate sugar water. They drank sugar water. So we had a brush, or we would either let them lick our fingers, or we had a brush to feed them, a paintbrush, so they could lick. And it would be a great experience for them to be licking flowers because they put their tongue in it and suck all the sugar water out. So they would go all over the place. They would try to fly, but their wings would be flopping on the side. It wouldn't, they would flip, tumble over, and then their wings would be on the side, and they would just they couldn't really walk properly and stuff. So they just kept practicing, and there was this one butterfly that kept flying and everything. It kept trying to fly, and it actually did, and then the other butterflies followed that butterfly.
At the end of the summer in August, when they begin that epic journey all the way down to Mexico, They no longer are feeding on milkweed. They're not nectaring on their flowers. They are simply making that journey. The only thing they eat then is water and flower nectar from other species like goldenrods.
Do you know like what specific area in Mexico would they fly to?
Well, no, because it would be like a nice warm area because like butterflies can't live in cold, so we have to release them before it gets cold.
Yeah, one of the really amazing things about monarchs is despite the fact that they breed all across the USA and southern Canada during the summer months, in the winter they go to a place about the size of New York City, 12 mountaintops in central Mexico, and it's a very specific place with a very specific tree, the Oyamel fir tree, where they cluster on the branches.
So they go 2,500 miles south and when they come again next year, 2,500 miles north, and 5,000 is the round trip. It's remarkable because their little bodies and their little wings, I don't know how they could handle that because honestly, I wouldn't be able to handle that even if I had wings because I could run on my feet, but I cannot fly that much. My wings will be tired if I had wings. Honestly, no. But I really think that maybe I would see one of their babies because I saw a butterfly that looked like them, and my mom's like, "Oh, maybe that's them." I'm like, "No, it's not. I'm sure it's not because it doesn't look like that." But maybe I'll see like their babies when they hatch.
We would have no clue about monarch conservation if it wasn't for this army of citizen scientists that have collected this data, and it really is a lot of people throughout the USA and Canada. A lot of that currently is being filtered through the North American Butterfly Association. People make counts, they have data sheets, and they get organized and enumerated through the NABA, we call it, the North American Butterfly Association.
Would you ever do that again?
Yes, definitely. I would want to do it again. And I might buy like more and more so I could like raise more and let them go in the summer because it's easier.
You don't have to go to the tropical rainforest to experience spectacular biodiversity. Right here in our backyard in central New York, there's plenty of plants and animals ripe for study.
Janiya, I have a question for you. What lasting did you have from raising those butterflies?
So, one lasting memory that I had raising those butterflies is when it pooped on my finger. Because it reminds me